going to take some shots and I'll see you later. Ah! It's fallen over again! No! Okay, well, I've come out. It's absolutely thrown it down. I must be so crazy to do this, but I've come out. I'm going to try and get a shot. I've got an umbrella. Probably not going to walk that far away from the car, but I want to sort of try and reflect the mood of today, because it is throwing it down. It's a typical British day. I must be crazy. I just must be crazy. So I'm going to drive a bit further up this road, see if I can find a spot, and then I know there's a tree up here. I think I can get that, and then maybe just get the road in it as well, which is going to reflect the light a little bit, what little bit of light there is. I think I'm going to be able to get a shot. I'm actually quite excited by it, weirdly. Okay, let's go. After being outside and getting absolutely thoroughly wet through and not finding anything, and just getting water everywhere on all my lenses, which just didn't work, I've decided to drive a little bit further down the road, and I've discovered the McDonald's equivalent of drive-through photography. So I've stopped by the side of the road here. I found a really good tree which I've actually photographed before, and I'm going to jump out of the car, walk around, see if I can find a composition. I'll leave this recording on a tripod from the car in the dry, hopefully, and then you can see me walk around and see if I can find something. Now the mist, or dense fog as it should be called, is changing all the time, so I think I might be able to get something quite good. Just doesn't get any better than this. Just look at this, it's absolutely amazing. I've come out here, nobody else is out, it's just quiet. Everyone's out, either inside or just staying away from the rain. But I'm out in the Peak District, in the mist, in the rain, and it's fantastic. And I think I'm going to get an absolutely great shot with this scene here and these trees and the clump of trees below. So, I'm going to go back to my camera, which is still surviving under the umbrella. Okay, right, well, I've got set up. I'll just step out a little bit. You can see I have rigged up a little umbrella, which is working pretty well. And I've got a great scene here. So if you can just look behind me now, the rain's just stopped briefly, but there's a little hut, some trees, and these foreground trees here. And the mist just looks fantastic. I've got so lucky. The mist just lifted a little bit. I had some masking tape in my car, so I rigged this up and it works a treat. So I've got my D810 on my 24-70 lens. Oh crap. Okay, it's windy. This is not good. Right, come back. Yay, there we go. So I've got my 24-70 lens on my D810. And I've already taken a shot. And I'm going to take another one now. I've got it set at around about f8. Focusing on these trees in the foreground. I'm not bothered if the background's out of focus because it just looks absolutely fantastic. So, I'm going to go back to my camera, which is still surviving under the umbrella. I'm going to take some shots and I'll see you later. Ah! It's fallen over again! No! So my new type of drive-by photography has definitely proved to be great fun. If you look at my inside of my car, it's absolutely soaked. But I wasn't going to be beaten, and I think I've got actually great image. So I'm just going to open the window just for a second. You hopefully can see in the background here. I've got this tree over here, and this is a tree that again I've taken lots of times before. and I'm waiting for the reservoir in the background to open up to the weather. And what I'm hoping to do is catch the rain coming down as I take this shot. Now everything is going to be handheld, but I've got lots of things to rest myself on to make sure I keep it really steady. I've got an iOS lens on my Fuji X-T2 as well, which really helps to shoot down to probably 1/10 of a second if I'm really careful. And yeah, it's going to be dramatic. It's going to be dramatic. I really hope the images are sharp. It's not outdoor photography. I haven't got out as much as I should have done. Obviously, it's absolutely peeing it down now. I mean, if you just look at that out there, it's so heavy, the rain now. There's literally a river running down the road. What a difference literally 2 minutes makes to this. And I keep filming in the car, by the way. I am actually getting out and walking a little bit in the rain. But just look at this now. It's just incredible. Before, you could hardly see this tree. And now, look at this. So obviously this week's video was slightly different than I have done before. I didn't get to walk so much, but I had a fantastic time. I really enjoyed searching for those images and trying to portray and get an image that portrayed the mood of the day, which was just torrential rain, dark, really foreboding skies. And I think I got that with this image that I printed out here on some photo speed semi-gloss paper. It just looks fantastic. So what I wanted to do was show you how I edited this image and converted it into a black and white image. I don't do a lot of black and white photography. I used to. I started out doing just black and white photography in the film days, and I had my own darkroom. But not much has changed in Lightroom than to try and create that mood than what I used to do, dodging and burning certain areas in the darkroom. So I wanted to go through my process of taking this image and showing you how I created the final image that I showed you just before. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is the image that I took. If I just hover over here, then you can see that it was taken at 50th of a second, ISO 800 on the 18mm side of the 10 to 24mm lens. Now, if I'm honest, it's slightly underexposed this. If you look at the histogram at the top right here, then I should have exposed it a little bit further to the right of this histogram. So the first thing I'm going to do is convert it to black and white. So to do that, I'm going to go down to this tab here, rather than just click the black and white here, because this offers you just a little bit more control over your black and white images. Now, in this image, where there's not a lot of colour, it doesn't really matter too much. But what I can do is I can say, for the red tones, the orange tones, the yellow tones, etc., how much of that tone is translated into a particular hue, whether it be really dark or really light in the black and white image. So if I wanted all the green tones to be really white, then I can drag that to the right, or really dark, I can drag it to the left. So it makes a big difference to the image here. Now you've got to be careful, because if you drag it one way or the other, and I'll show you on the blue tone, I'm just going to set this to what it should be. So if I go down to the blue tone here and then move this, you can see that it's probably going to impact the sky. But as I move it right to one side or the other, then you can see that you start to get noise in the image. So you've got to be a little bit careful. So blue, I want to be set around about there. I'm going to slightly move the aqua. The green, I want to be about there. That foreground, I want to be quite dark. The yellow. So this is just, again, changing the foreground a little bit, but picking out some of the details. So I'm going to move that to about +2. And again, if I just move this left and right, you can see that it's slightly changing the image a little bit, not very much in this case. But if you're converting autumn photos into black and white, or something that's very colourful, you've got a blue sky, then you can do quite dramatic things, obviously, with this black and white mix here. So once I've done that, the next thing I'm going to do is go and crop the image. So I just want to crop it down to about there. I don't want that foreground in. and that's much stronger. And then I'm going to do sort of global adjustments to it before I do some more local adjustments. So I'm going to leave the exposure for now and increase the contrast slightly on this image. I'm going to reduce the highlights a little bit, which I'll come back to in a minute. I'm going to slightly increase the shadows, which brings out some of the detail down here. I'm going to fairly significantly increase the whites. Again, the sky's going too white now because it was very dark and overcast. I want to get that back, but I'm going to do that by a local adjustment. Then I'm also going to increase the blacks quite significantly, which brings out, again, some more detail in those blacks and makes them slightly more grey, but that's what it was like on the day. So you can see now my histogram is slightly more even across the whole range from blacks to white. Now, there was no whites in the image, so there's never going to be detail in this part of the image here because it just wasn't white. It was a very dark and overcast day. So I'm going to increase the clarity, which can add to the dramatic effect of images. You've got to not overdo this because it increases the grain of the image as well, which I'm going to come to later. So you can start to see it's improving now. I want to increase the whites a little bit further and then have a slight S-curve just to, again, lower those blacks down. I think that is probably enough. So once I've done that, I'm going to put a graduated filter on the sky here. And I'm going to slightly reduce the exposure of it. I'm going to fairly significantly increase the contrast of that sky. And I'm also going to increase the clarity still further in the sky there to bring out, again, some of that detail. And then I'm going to just slightly reduce the noise of the sky in this local adjustment. So once I've done that, I'm just going to move that down a little bit. I'm going to add another graduated filter to the sky. So just a little bit higher up here, I'm going to add another one. And on this one, all I'm going to do on this one is just reduce the exposure of this one, again, to try and get that dramatic effect of the day. And that's about okay. Again, I'm going to increase the contrast and I'm going to increase the clarity. So I'm going to reduce that exposure just a little bit more. And I'll probably go back to this one again, just reduce that exposure a little bit more. There we go. So I'm going to add one more adjustment for the bottom of the image here. And all I'm going to do in this area is increase the contrast and reduce the highlights slightly, very slightly, just to bring out some of the detail into the mist here. So the very final thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a filter just to reduce the darkness around the edges of the image, increase the darkness around the edges of the image. So I'm just going to invert this mask and slightly reduce the exposure. So that is pretty much the final image. I think I'm just going to do one more thing, maybe just increase the shadows a little bit more here. Just on this bottom filter, I just want to bring out a little bit more detail in the foreground here. So that's it. There is the final edited image. Hopefully that's helped and can encourage you to go and do some black and white photography as well. I think it's really good for portraying moods of weather, certainly, and clouds. It really does look fantastic. So next week is something a little bit different. I've got a challenge on with a fellow YouTuber. So hopefully you can tune in then. Thanks ever so much for watching. If anybody wants to get on a workshop, a one-to-one workshop with me, then please try and sign up for that as soon as possible. I'm getting booked up and it's been much more popular than I first expected it to be. So if you want to get a day, I'm booking all the way up into July next year now. Then please, there's a link below, click that and you can find out more details about my one-to-ones. I do that in the Peak District and the Lake District. And thanks ever so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, then please subscribe below. Give it a thumbs up if you like the video, that's really helpful to me. Comment below as well, because again, that's really helpful. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.